want to give credit to Candace for interviewing Hunter Biden, who I obviously have no love for, or even respect for that matter. But I do think in the grand scheme of what Hunter Biden was involved in compared to what Trump's Beavis and Butthead sons are involved in terms of financial crimes and things that they were involved in, when you compare Burisma to 1789 Capital, for example, or even Jared Kushner, which we'll get into, listen carefully to what Hunter Biden says. This is a cut up of some key talking points from their interview. I thought these were the most important.
Idea that you feel unsafe in the United States of America because you disagree with the current administration on a issue that 70% of Americans agree with you on.
Mm-hmm.
We need to stop the wholesale murder of a population in Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you think about my father's policy as it relates, I always say to people, you know one thing he didn't do? He didn't greenlight to turn Gaza into a Trump golf course, with the maitre d' being Jared Kushner. With
your father was an avowed Zionist. Your father is the reason Trump got back into the White House. Your father had an opportunity to stop this before it became a genocide, and he chose not to. Do I think your father is as blatant as Trump? No. But again, this is 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. And it isn't even a question of whether it's his call, because it's not. It was President Blinken's call. And Blinken is connected to Robert and Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein. Still doesn't get talked about to this day. Isn't allowed to get away with that. All the things that the administration did. All the things. She is working nonstop for a ceasefire. How'd that work out? Didn't stop him. But because when shitlib society is in charge, they are able to get away with a lot more, because watching Trump and his cohorts is like watching a slow-moving car crash that is not going to stop. Can't avoid it. Can't ignore it. And President Biden put a lot of people to sleep, like himself. So to try to wash your hands of this genocide, Hunter, and even though Candace is not going to push back on you the way that I would, it is imperative that this is brought up. And I think Candace does a great job, but in this case, I don't think she did. I think he needed to be given. Now, again, they both have an axe to grind with Trump, and I understand that. But make no mistake, Joe Biden is a war criminal that should be tried in The Hague for crimes against humanity. End of discussion.
$4 billion in Saudi money.
It's despicable.
Despicable.
Yeah. Despicable, tasteless, indefensible. And
it's not a joke, though, is my point.
It wasn't a joke, and that is the deal.
And that's what they're doing, literally doing. And by the way, they're doing it out in the open. I mean, it's not as if they're hiding it in any way. And you had a problem, not you. Well, you too, but they had a problem with me as being this emblem of corruption. These guys, okay, Don Jr. got the single largest loan guarantee from the Department of Defense ever handed out, of over $600 million for an energy company, a fusion energy company, of which he has zero experience in. Jared Kushner who's never run a private equity fund, has now a $4 billion private equity fund with 80% of the money coming from the Middle East, of which he continues to raise as he is the ambassador at large on behalf of the Trump administration, not as a political appointee, but simply as a son-in-law of the president.
Mm-hmm.
Hunter Biden was being paid in excess of at least $80,000 a month in compensation from sitting on the board with Burisma. He had no experience. He had no business being there. If you want to measure apples and oranges because you didn't get as compensated as they have been compensated, well, there it is. He's just upset that he didn't grift as much money as the Trumps have been able to do. And I know, personally, I've met one of Trump's son's main benefactors who's involved in 1789 Capital. He is a very rich and powerful man. He actually was very interested in seeing Tulsi ascend up the political ranks. We'll talk about Tulsi on Monday. More things will come out about her resignation. I know Jen will have some things to say about it, as will I. But I'm telling you guys, you really have no idea how high up the ladder these things go, how powerful these people are, how much money, power, and influence they control. You're only getting a small taste of it. A small taste, because Trump and his sons are so transparently evil. They don't care. They're counting on those pardons, those blanket pardons, of which Hunter Biden, your father, sets the precedent on that. Not only did you give blanket pardons to your family, your entire family, including you, you gave it to Fauci. Dr. Fauci is a mass murderer. And I'm not even talking about COVID. You want to talk about a person who caused untold amounts of death due to the AIDS outbreak in the 80s and the methods that he employed? But he skated on that one. You come full circle into COVID, knowing full well that you never made any suggestions about the need to be outdoors, about who really needed to get protection. People that were in vulnerable categories, like those that have diabetes, which was the #1 killer if you contracted COVID. But no, because your father and his administration are just as corrupt, maybe more covertly than Trump's, are in bed with private insurance and big pharma, because we are the only developed nation on earth that doesn't have a universal healthcare system. We have a for-profit system. We decided that everybody needed a shot. And not only did everybody need a shot, but they needed boosters. Lots of them. This is all Biden and his administration. But you continue to try to wipe your hands clean, Hunter. Try. It's kind of like when RFK talks about the fact that we are a poisoned nation and that private equity is going to be the death of our country. He's right. He's just the wrong messenger. You are right about what you're saying about Trump and his cohorts, but you sure as shit are the wrong messenger to be saying it.
To come to a peace deal of a war in Iran that they started that has cost the economy billions and billions of dollars for a war nobody wanted, that every president before him, was pressured by the Israelis to get into. And every single one, regardless what you think of them, from Jimmy Carter, through President Reagan, through both of the Bushes, through Clinton, through my dad, said, you're out of your goddamn minds.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the reason why. This is what's going to happen. So who benefits right now? You know who benefits? The people that are making trades of billions of dollars on market manipulation that occur, and
Insider
we all know
trading has
it's
been.
literally out in the open. But who's gonna, you know?
We got behind him as the answer to corruption. We thought he was going to be this outsider. He's going to go to DC. He's going to drain the swamp. And then he became the Loch Ness monster, And so it's like,
Yeah,
I don't know what it is about that swamp, but you get swimming in it. And
yeah.
it's like people do this. And yes, it has been for Israel. Not to say that Trump wasn't pro-Israel. Most presidents actually are pro-Israel when they go in there. And if they go anti-Israel, they kind of end up dead.
The old joke is that when you are the first day of the presidency, the first day you walk into that office, you're taken into a private room by the head of intelligence and shown the other angle of JFK's assassination and said, any questions? Well, they're letting you know who's in control. It's not us.
The idea that you feel unsafe in the United States of America because you disagree with the current administration.
Don't get any ideas. I would also say that Candace is still Candace, and she is going to do what she does, which is draw attention, kind of like a shock jock, bring on certain people that will get people to talk, which clearly this did. And as I said, it would have been one thing if, Hunter went on there and was very repentant about all the things that he did. And I'm sure he was to some degree. But as I pointed out, as is the key component to this conversation, why it was important to address it. Hunter Biden, on behalf of his father and their administration, are trying to wipe their hands clean right now of what they did. You will never wipe your hands clean of this genocide, ever. You are more responsible than Trump. That's a fact. Indisputable fact. This was under your watch for almost a year and a half. You could have done something. You did less than nothing. You helped facilitate it, accelerate it.